Hey everyone, thank you so much for being here today. I'm excited to go ahead and share with you our group of panelists. We've got a lot of great insights lined up, and I know we're going to walk away with some really valuable takeaways on the event rental industry. Before we dive in, let's start with introducing our panelists. So I'm going to go ahead and start with Jeff.
My name is Jeff Crotto from All About Events in Jacksonville, Florida, and I'm the current ARA president.
Awesome. And Dan?
Yeah, hi, my name is Dan Farrell. I am the regional executive for Quest Events Region 4. I am also the SIG chair for the event SIG at ARA and serving board member.
Awesome. And we have Ramsey.
Hi, everybody. I'm Ramsey Duqum, CEO of 4C Rental Software Enable Rents, headquartered in Cleveland, Ohio, and I'm a member of the ARA Special Interest Group.
And last but not least, we have Brian.
Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Brian Richardson, president of L&A Tent Rentals in Hamilton, New Jersey, and I am the current Region 2 director of the American Rental Association and incoming president-elect. So thanks for having me.
All right, thank you guys. Now we're going to go ahead and get a little bit deeper dive into some questions. I've lined up some really big topics from the event rental industry, so feel free guys to jump in and add your thoughts to each other's answers so we can make it a really great conversation. We're first going to start with market trends. Understanding the broader forces shaping the industry can be crucial for staying competitive in our market. Jeff, we'll go ahead and start with you. What current trends are most influencing the party and event rental industry, and how can businesses adapt to these changes?
Thanks, Elizabeth. So the one thing that we've seen, obviously, all of us have seen increased costs across the board, whether it's labor or what have you, and having the ability to raise prices to combat that. And as part of that for us as well, as clients are more and more wanting a one-stop shop to come to you for everything of their event to make it as turnkey as possible. So one thing that we've done to try to raise our average ticket price is to provide all those other things, whether those things you have to sub-rent or things you purchase or whatever, but just trying to make yourself really a one-stop shop for your customers so they don't have to go anywhere else, and that gives you a competitive advantage over your competitors.
Well, we will go ahead and move on to the next category. Kind of coinciding with that, we're going to talk about pricing strategies. This can be a key component of profitability and customer loyalty. Dan, I'd love to hear your thoughts first on how should rental businesses approach pricing strategies to remain profitable while maintaining customer loyalty?
Well, it is now more important than ever that rental organizations understand their pricing structure. Job costing is extremely important as operating costs have risen, and in a very competitive market. It's key to knowing that you're actually making money on your bottom line. Many in the rental industry have seen their seasons expanding. As a result of this, we've dabbled in surge pricing, seasonal pricing. We've looked at during our peak seasons, increasing our costs to our clients to cover our bottom lines, which shows that we're getting more and more skilled at that. Our clients, as a result, have spread out their event seasons. We've seen a lot of dates change, and with the expanding seasons, it is important to keep diversified and have a broad, full service event offering of products.
Awesome. Is that something you guys are all kind of feeling is, keeping up with different strategies as far as during the season, pricing changes? Is that something all four of you guys are doing within your business?
Yeah, one of the challenges I think we're going to find across the country is just finding good labor, and that labor is going to cost us a lot more than it has pre-COVID. So the seasonality that Dan's talking about is a challenge because you don't want to let good people leave or lay them off because you're afraid they might get picked up by someone else. So that is a huge challenge for us here in the Mid-Atlantic, is finding good help and retaining them throughout the winter months.
Well, and I think that's one of the also the elements with that the retention of that key help. The acquisition is one thing, but we all know that it's tougher to retain them sometimes. It's more important, I should say, to retain them than, after the acquisition of them. And one of the elements that we're doing with, on the pricing strategy, and I think it's important to note, is that pricing, we're talking about surge pricing. I think we should also engage the concept of capacity-based dynamic pricing, which changes relative to our labor elements and the other capacities that make up rental ecosystems. As Dan alluded to, that our seasons are expanding. I think one of those reasons is the climate is expanding, especially here in the Midwest, where it's not traditionally snowing until Q1 now, as opposed to Q4, and people are getting more confident in doing their events later. But also the aspect that a lot of these clients are based upon our unavailability during peak seasons. It's pushing their events to the fringes of the seasons, which is pushing the bell curve down. And we're going to parlay this into technology, but we really need to identify where we have those gaps in capacity and be able to optimize that with our people and give them more structured schedules to help with our retention rates. So pricing is a tremendous output of capacities, but revenue is not a capacity. It is an output of capacities. I think we're going to start to learn with technology how that really applies into our businesses.
Sure. And have any of you had issues relaying this kind of pricing change to your recurring customer base? And has that been an issue as far as pricing rise, to kind of explain that to them?
I mean, I think it's an education. I mean, you certainly get some pushback from customers who ask, what does this peak pricing mean? Or, why is this price different than what's on the website? Or why is this different that I paid at a different event, a different time of the year? So there's certainly an education there. But using sort of jumping on what Ramsey said there, for us, we've sort of we've tried different things to charge more when it's busy, or combat with different fees and that sort of thing. And what we started doing now is just using sort of a whole suite of fees and just charging what's appropriate, whether that's a fee because it's the last minute, or whether that's a fee because it's, again, peak, or those kind of things. So just time specific delivery and all those kind of things, just sort of depending on what the order calls for, just charging an appropriate fee that makes some sense to a client. To charge them a peak fee over Christmas and tell them this time of year we're super busy because we're charging, so we're charging this fee. Most of them just say, okay, I understand. It makes sense to them.
Yeah, absolutely. Awesome.
I think you're also going to see a challenge here. Those lower priced events, say a country fair or a local festival, you're going to see, I think, that those type of events kind of disappear from the landscape here in this country, just because like a 4-H fair doesn't have the budget to be able to continue. And as our costs that we're charging them has gone up. Now, granted, a wedding's a once in a lifetime event. That client is willing to spend more for that. But a local municipality that's had a festival every year for 40 years, they're looking at those and thinking, hey, maybe these have to go away. We've seen a huge balloon festival here in New Jersey that has decided to call it quits. They didn't have it this year. It's not coming back. The same thing happened in Maine. So we're looking at those larger scale events that don't have the same budget that may be disappearing from the landscape.
But I would add, dynamic pricing does add value to the customers because the price can go down relative to our capacities. We've been using at Able Rents dynamic pricing since exclusively on mid to low level events since 2021. So we're going into year 4 of it. And the clients are flabbergasted that we can give them a price relative to their event. And they're very aware that it is a momentary price. Like in airplane seats, they base their pricing on the capacity of the seats available, not the revenue generated by the flight. And I think that it's really changing the landscape here, and people have shown appreciation for it because we're able to give them times in the year where the price goes down, and they have been very willing to move their events to there as a rule to save money. And it also lifts our valley of revenue up, but when they're filling that valley.
Great. Awesome. That was it.
As Ramsey said, the moving events is one thing that we've worked really, really hard with our clients to show them that there's other options. And as Brian alluded to, the cost of running an event has drove larger events into rethinking their event in its entirety. It's important to work with your clients and to communicate with them and to help them find solutions to be able to still hold their events just by altering some tent sizes or changing some options. Know your client's budget. And if you have good communication with your client and help them find solutions, that's what a lot of us in the event industry have done, which has led to expanded season and allowed us to work into surge pricing.
Great. Thank you guys so much. I think that's really important, just kind of hitting on pricing. And in the event industry, especially, you never want to undercut yourself to help continue growing. So kind of moving on from there, we're going to hit on technology. As we all know, technology is reshaping pretty much every industry, and event rental is definitely not an exception. Ramsey, we'll go ahead and kick it to you for your thoughts. How is technology reshaping the event rental landscape, and what emerging technology should companies or business owners being investing in to stay competitive?
So thank you. I think that we're in a very unique time where two inflection points are crossing. We're at an inflection point with a work gap, a workforce gap, which Brian alluded to, and I'm very confident we are in a point where transformative technology has and is seriously coming to market that will change the way we do business. That's all relative to the capacity. It's all relative to the things that we've touched on so far. I think that technology is our way to bridge that gap. And if we look at the rental analytics right now, we have a softening growth curve that's starting and happening in 25. We have single digit growth going through 28. That's been forecasted. And everybody on this call can agree that it's not based upon the demand that we have. And it's based upon our capacities and availability to fulfill that demand reliably. And I think that transformative technologies are going to be a digital workflow that technology is going to bring to the market. We have AI, and AI is a hot topic, but it's here and it's going to be influxed into our businesses more. AI and predictive analytics to forecast demand patterns and inform strategic decisions. I do think for that augmented reality, which will enable virtual walkthroughs of event setups for clients, is going to be really big. I think showrooms are going to become less efficient to man. Thus, I think that turning showrooms into a digital virtual space that could be on a shared screen is also something that's going to really be effective. We have the IoT, which is the Internet of Things, and smart equipments that connects all of us to the internet, and together they'll offer real-time tracking and maintenance alerts, telemetrics. And I think that all these things are going to create a holistic circle to offset the problem that we have with finding labor and retaining the labor. I think two buckets where the labor is going to be coming from, which we're somewhat insulated by in blue collar, is going to be the white collar coming into our market as their jobs are automated through AI and from the top down, and they're going to need to have process-based companies to enter into because that's what they know best. That we're looking for responsible people, and we need to be responsible to them and our processes in order to not bring them into a historically chaotic industry. And I also think that the next generation, the younger generation, which I like to call the COVID kids, that came in and their parents pushed them into the market because they were getting paid $18 to $22 an hour to do something that used to be $12 an hour during the last 4 years. I think I see a tremendous opportunity in a bandwidth of young people. And with the attrition of higher education not being as appealing to them, they're spending hundreds and hundreds of thousands of dollars for jobs that AI really has their sights on. I think the blue collar workforce and the technical fields, we're all going to be competing for them. And I think for our industry to stay competitive, we need to be process-based and give them a future that isn't what I traditionally grew up in the industry, and a lot of these young people that were born into this industry who are leaving. I think it's going to be super important for us to give them a reliable industry to come into to compete with the electricians, HVACs, and also take some of the profits from this industry and put them into the marketing our industry to them, but not with an empty promises, but with reliable buckets and time schedules for them to come into, and give them a path to the future, which will move us all forward.
Awesome. I think that's a great perspective. Does anybody else have any specific technologies or tools that you want to mention that have made an impact for you or that you see for the foreseeable future?
Well, as far as the technology goes, what we've done, what has happened in the last 25 years is incredible. It used to be just guys out there with a sledgehammer and in shorts putting tents up, and now with the Ken Oxes of the world, with ratchets, with everything that we've done, the safety that we've taken on in this industry, it's really changed. It's now much more professional as far as the people that we have working and installing tents than it was 25 years ago. The products are much better than they were. I'm really confident that things are only going to get better in the future.
Definitely.
Yeah, the event industry has always been hungry for new tech with product handling, inventory control, job costing, dispatch. And we've seen traditional solutions don't always work well with event dynamics. But recently, in the past few years, even more so, come through 2024, we're seeing new and existing software and tech companies recognize the value of supporting our industry. In the old standard solutions that have somewhat limited options available to us, we're starting to be challenged by new develops and new development and fresh approaches to solve aged issues for us.
Great. All right, thank you guys. To kind of close it out, we're finally going to talk about looking ahead to the future, predicting what's next. And, that can always be a challenge. But in preparation for this, Brian, I'm going to start with you. What are the key indicators that industry leaders should watch out for to better predict the economic future of the event rental industry in the coming years?
Wow, you picked the oldest guy on the panel to talk about the future. And I'll probably have the shortest future. I probably have the shortest future of all of us. An actuary would probably say that. But so obviously some of the indicators would be interest rates, where they're going to be. A lot of people are financing equipment, financing, purchasing. So that is a challenge. Unemployment rates will have a direct impact on where we can get staff and how much we're going to have to pay that staff. But also what seems to be on the tip of everyone's tongue on the news is tariffs and what that would do. Many of us purchase from overseas, whether it's one of the Asian countries or even Canada. Some of us purchased tents from Canada or Mexico. So those tariffs will have a direct impact on all of us, on our purchases, whether it's tents or tables and chairs or linens. So we're kind of nervous that way. And we're hoping it's just some saber rattling to get the other countries to have more trade balance with us. But we are apprehensive and scared. So that in what could happen. So those are some of the key indicators that we'll see about the future. This industry is very exciting. There's great new innovations as far as tents go. We're all trying to develop things that and have in our inventory things that other companies don't have to set us apart. So I'm looking forward to a great future in this industry.
Great. Would you like to add any indicators or strategies you think are important in navigating the future? Anybody else?
Well, I was just going to add, and this I think correlates back to some of the stuff that was said, is if see what happens on immigration, if anything. I mean, I know that there's a lot of more and more folks in our industry using the H-2B visa program. We've got our first batch of folks coming here shortly. And, is there going to be anything done on that front? And because that would solve some of our, some of the labor force changes that we've spoken about, Ramsey spoke about on earlier. I think that's going to be very key. Could be a decent solution for us too, if we're able to get something done on that, where that program is expanded or something, larger scale is done on immigration in general.
Yeah, Jeff, that's huge. We've been in the HDB program. This is going into our 8th year. In 2020, we started an EB3 program where we're getting green cards for some of our top guys to bring their families here. I think that's a strategy that people can use to kind of alleviate some of the labor gap that we're having domestically. But I can unfortunately say, and this is not a political conversation, this is just a landscape that we're coming into, is that our toughest year getting our HGBs were between 2016 and 2020. That's just the reality of the fact. There were times that we did not have them come in. And I think that we're going to have to, as an industry, have a diversified approach to bridging that gap. Because anything that has a lottery system, as I think Brian spoke to before, it's really tough to put your eggs into all of that basket. So for everybody who's going into it, it's beautiful outputs if you can get it to work and marry those two cultures within the business, because those are two separate cultures, but they all have to come out at one voice. And I just, hope that lessons learned between 16 and 20 will lead us into a brighter future in 2024 and beyond.
And just on that front, I would mention that ARA, their government affairs program, has been working diligently on the H-2B program, John McClellan and his staff, for at least the past 7 years that I've been involved. And it is at the forefront of everything that government affairs has been working on the past 7 years.
This has been a really awesome conversation. Thank you all so much for sharing your insights today. I know everyone's going to be walking away with some great tips and takeaways, especially hearing back from people who are also living and breathing the industry. So huge thank you to all of you guys for taking the time. Now I'm going to go ahead and pass it back to John to take a closer look at the rental forecast. So thank you again, everybody.